Hi, everyone. Nice to see everybody here this morning and joining us for Earth Summit.
And you've been working with Kim Matson, receiving messaging about all of our presenters today. And so we're so excited that you guys will be with us for the next 2 hours, learning a little bit more as our Earth Summit is virtual again. Good to see so many familiar faces there. Clean Valley Council has for over 20 years offered Earth Summit in live and in-person formatting. And so I'm excited to say that through our virtual format, second year format, we hope to return to in-person Earth Summit in the following year. As you all have heard a little bit from our Director of Programs, Kim Matson, we have today on the call Trex Farmer. He's our new environmental educator and community engagement coordinator. You'll see Trey in and out of your school, as well as Kim Matson. And we're excited to have joining us today, Dina Sasser, our Director of Operations and Communications. And so Trex and Dina will be helping after each speaker is presented today to share whatever you're placing in the chat today. They'll be our moderators. And today we encourage each one of you all to share questions, answers from your students at the end of the presentations. We've got a wonderful lineup of 4 different presenters from Trex, from RDS, also Recycling and Disposal Solutions. We have Virginia Western Community College with us today for Earth Summit. And we also have Carilion Clinic with us. So each one of those presenters will be introduced to you all. Just a few pieces of housekeeping if you didn't catch that at the very beginning. Again, I'm Courtney Plaster, Executive Director here with Clean Valley Council. Once we have questions and we have answers from you all, from students, we'd love to have that direct interaction. Mr. Galbraith, I'm proud to see you wearing your Clean Valley Council t-shirt today. Rusty is not only a long friend, a friend of Clean Valley Council's, a friend of mine, and it's always exciting to see him here. I know many of you have attended our Earth Summits in the past. So we always here at Clean Valley Council are looking for input from you all about how we can improve and how we can make our Earth Summit more beneficial to your students. So without further ado, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Clean Valley Council if you don't know already. Our mission is to encourage environmental stewardship, and we do that through environmental education within the school systems, pre-K to 12. Once again, if you've seen our educators in and out of the school system, we're always excited to share with you all the newest and most recent information. Our topic today is on recycling. If you've had us in your school and visits to classrooms or seen us at public events, raising public awareness, you all know that we feel strongly about recycling. And so the topic today of recycling, as we think about how, what, and why not, our presenters will be sharing more of that with you. So as we think about environmental education within the schools, within your public events, sharing more with you all, we want to think a little bit more about litter prevention, think about stormwater pollution prevention, and how we can be more sustainable. So learning more about recycling is going to help us with that. So as you all think about our presentations today, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Stephanie Hicks with Trex. How are you, Stephanie?
Oh, would you please unmute Stephanie?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. And Stephanie comes to us through Trex as a materials sourcing manager. And she's going to talk with you a little bit more about plastic film and bag recycling. One of the wonderful things that Trex will share with you all today is a little bit more about plastic film in our waste stream, about plastic film from a recycling standpoint. And today, each one of our presenters have posed questions for you. The questions were shared with you. Some teachers may or may not have had a chance to share, but each one of our presenters will be asking for answers to those questions. So hopefully that will be something that each one of your students can share. And teachers, I encourage you all to place those either in the chat or have your students ask those questions. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Are you sharing the presentation or am I sharing my presentation?
You should be able to share your presentation. I have share capabilities for you, so go ahead.
Okay.
If not, I am prepared.
Okay. What can you see?
It was good the first time. Right now we can see the entire presentation. So you might want to go to slideshow and slide and maybe current slide or from the beginning.
Okay, you can see it now. There
That's
we go.
Wonderful. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Multiple screens. Sometimes I don't know what you can see and not see. Anyway,
Absolutely.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me to present today. I know we have a big lineup, so I'm going to go through a lot of information, probably pretty quick, because I do want to have time for questions. I know that plastic film recycling and bag recycling is very confusing, even for those of us who are in the industry. So I just want to make sure that we try to clear up as many questions as we can. So I'm going to go over today an introduction to Trex, just so that everyone knows what Trex is, what items we can recycle, and a little bit about our recycling programs, and then have some time for questions. So I came across this quote from Mr. Roger of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and thought it was very fitting when it comes to talking about recycling. Often when you think you're at the end of something, you're really at the beginning of something else. And what else could be said about when you're taking something and making it into something new? So just information on Trex. Trex is a composite decking company. So we make our boards out of sawdust and plastic versus what you would cut down either from trees and have a traditional board. We've been in business for nearly 30 years, and we have two plants, one in Virginia, in Winchester, which is about 2.5 hours from Roanoke. And then our other plant is in Nevada. And we just announced that we're opening a third plant in Arkansas. Right now, we employ about 1,700 full-time employees, and our decking is sold in not only the U.S., but also internationally in 43 countries. We've been around since 1996, and we were founded on the principle of being able to recycle and be a green company, which is unique. A lot of companies are just now coming into that. And we're also the country's largest recycler of polyethylene film and packaging, which is typically, when you're looking at that, that would be like your typical grocery store bag. So I know one of the things I was asked to speak about were jobs in recycling. So Trex is headquartered in Winchester. So just about any job that you can think of that you would take to run a business would be available in Trex. Material sourcing, which is the department that I'm in, we take care of purchasing the wood and the plastic that is needed to make the boards. Manufacturing, of course, sales, accounting, procurement, which they purchase all of the things that we need to make our business work, from the paper towels to different ingredients that go into our boards. The call center, order management, which is taking care of putting in orders from distributors, logistics, which is handling trucking, warehouse management. We have 4 warehouses, I believe, just in Winchester, and another one out in Fernley. So you have to be able to maintain those warehouses. IT, legal, human resources, marketing and public relations, finance, engineering, research and development, equipment maintenance, and quality. So when you're looking at these careers, it's one of those things you kind of think about, what are you best suited for? Are you suited for sitting in an office? Are you suited for being on the road? Are you suited for working 12-hour shifts? Things to think about when you're trying to decide on a career. And do you want to pursue college, or do you want to maybe work in a trade? So lots of things to think about there. To make our boards, we basically have two products that go into it. Hardwood dust, which comes from flooring and cabinet manufacturers. It is their byproduct. And then polyethylene film, which is grocery store bags and pallet wrap. In 2020, Trex upcycled more than 900 million pounds of both of those items combined, which is a humongous number. This slide shows our manufacturing process. Basically, we bring in our two commodities that we need, our two materials, which would be plastic film and plastic bags, and then wood dust. We take both of those items, we pulverize them into a smaller size. So the wood dust is down into a flour, the plastic is down into a pellet or a shred. And then we take those two items, mix them together, heat them up, and extrude them through a die. This is very similar to what you would have done as a child with Play-Doh, whether you're making the one that has the hair or the one that is forming a star. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're taking two materials, heating them up, making them pliable, and then pushing them out through a die. Then we let the boards cool, we wrap them, and then they're off to market. So this picture shows what we actually receive in our warehouse. We get truckloads upon truckloads upon truckloads every day of baled plastic, and this is the form it comes to us. So this is so that you can press the packaging and plastic down into a form that makes it heavy enough to ship, because plastic bags are very, very light. Each one of these bales weighs between 800 and 1,000 pounds, and we put about 38 to 40 of them on a tractor trailer, and we get dozens of those tractor trailers every day. So just some facts here. In 2020, Trex upcycled 320 million pounds of plastic film. We recycle through our closed loop recirculation process all of the water, 99% of the water that goes into cooling our boards and railing in the process. Trex coordinates 2,500 school and community programs. And through those programs, we've recycled 3.5 million pounds of plastic bag and film since 2011. Not a small number. And then our grocery partners. Our grocery partners are how we normally receive plastic bags and film from the public. And we have 32,000 retail collection points throughout the US and Canada. Just to give a little bit of perspective on this number, oops, I'm sorry. That 362 million pounds of plastic film, that is an enormous number. But compared to the amount of single-use plastic that is generated just in the US every year, it's probably only maybe 1%. There's 32 billion pounds of single-use plastic generated in the United States annually. Only about 12% of that gets recycled. That also includes any bottles, rigid plastics. It's not just the plastic film, but just wanted to give perspective. There is a lot out there that could still use a home and become another product. Trex receives our plastic through two recycling streams. One is post-commercial, the other is post-consumer. Post-commercial films would be pallet wrap that goes around goods in a distribution center that then come to Trex to be recycled. Post-consumer would be what you have at your house that you take back to the grocery store to be recycled. Those also come to us and we end up recycling them into our boards. This slide shows a generic list of the items that someone would have in their home that they could recycle with Trex. So you have the grocery bags, which everybody knows about, but then we have all of these other items that can go into the grocery store bin. that a lot of people don't know about. Your bread bags, your case over wrap, your retail bags, air pillows, bubble wrap, dry cleaning bags, newspaper sleeves, Ziploc bags, produce bags, shipping envelopes, as long as they're plastic, and they could have the bubble wrap inside, or they could just be the thin plastic, but either one is fine. Electronic wrap, even your ice bags, salt bags, and cereal box liners can all go into the recycling bin and come to Trex to be recycled. Couple of things and ways you can tell if something can be recycled in case you're not sure. Try to give it a stretch with your thumb. If it will stretch and it has give, then it can go in your recycling bin. If it won't stretch, if it is shiny, if it's crinkly, if it rips straight, that should probably go in the trash can and can't come to Trex to be recycled. This slide shows the flow of plastic from the grocery store back to Trex. So you're going to take your grocery bags and other plastic films to the grocery store, put it in their recycling bin. They're going to ship it back to their grocery distribution center. From there, the grocery distribution center is going to compile all of the plastic that they have from the dozens of stores that they supply groceries to and bale it into those big 1,000-pound bales. When they have a full tractor trailer load, then Trex purchases it and it comes to Trex, either in Virginia or Nevada, and starts into the process of becoming a decking board. So we have two outreach programs to help educate communities and schools about the best way to recycle plastic film. We began these programs in 2006, and we have somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 schools and community programs competing or participating nationwide. Trex provides promotional items to help support these programs through providing recycling bins, posters, and magnets to help support and let people know what they can and can't recycle. The school program, which I'm pretty sure we do have some schools in Roanoke that have participated or are participating now, is a great way for schools to educate students what they can and cannot recycle through a friendly competition. It begins each year on America Recycles Day, which is November 15th, and ends each year at Earth Day on April 22nd. So the schools are competing against other schools of similar size to collect and recycle the most plastic bags and film. It just takes basically a recycling or a school volunteer or a recycling champion at the school to spearhead the program. They would be in charge of collecting the plastic, weighing it, reporting it, and then delivering it back to the local retailer. To support this program, Trex provides a magnet available to every student at the school. So they're not only educating themselves on what can be recycled, but also their extended family when they take it home. An example of the magnet is on the right-hand side of the screen. All of the winning schools get a bench, and all of the other schools that participate get some sort of award from Trex. This year, we are going to do wind chimes for the winning schools, and about 10% of the schools do receive a bench. That's usually we've had about 700 schools participate recently nationwide, so it's about 70 benches that are given out each year. And then our community program, it's geared towards civic organizations like Lions Clubs, Rotary, Houses of Worship, Kiwanis, Parks and Rec, libraries, small businesses. They're invited to participate in our community challenge, where they're working towards a 6-month goal of recycling 500 pounds in that 6-month period. They can set up their start date. And then to support that program, we provide them with recycling bins and posters to help promote that program. The bench you see on the right is the bench that the schools receive, or I'm sorry, that the communities receive when they reach their goal. Lastly, I just want to invite you all, if you get a chance, to visit our website. There's so much more information on there that I could go through in a presentation. It's recycle.trex.com. We have several videos on there that show what can and can't be recycled, how the process works. We have do's and don'ts, all kinds of great information that we can share on there. And I think that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very informative talk. I'm personally, my children's school has actually participated in the school program for several years now, and they haven't won every year, but they do have a bench, and it's actually been a really good educational experience because a lot of the students' families didn't know what could be recycled and that what happened to the products, and so it really has been a great program and a learning experience for much of the school. So I appreciate that you guys are doing that, and that Trex is going to be continuing the program, I hope, because
Yes.
it really does make a difference. And I think last year my kids' school, I think they ended up sending over 5,000 pounds of plastic bags to the program. So it was a lot. You don't realize that how much plastic you can actually accumulate. So yeah. So thank you for the program.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah. So are there any other questions for Stephanie? Do we have any in the chat room?
I had put a question out to the group, and now I'm showing the answer, but from the presentation, I wondered if they were aware or not aware that there were other things they could recycle other than plastic bags. And if so, what were the items that they were most surprised by that they could put in the store recycling bins?
Okay, and we just have another question for you. What % of your water use is lost during processing, and what efforts you currently have underway to reduce this %?
It's less than 1%.
That's impressive. Do you guys use gray water, or do you recycle your water?
We recycle the water, so it is a recirculation system that we use to recycle the water.
Okay, that's fantastic. All right. Another question says, we have a community garden site which is interested in this program, and that's from Amazetta Anderson. So how would she be able to get in touch with you guys to be able to possibly have that program with their community garden site?
Sure. Just go to recycle.trex.com, and there's a registration form on that website for her to fill out, and that's where she can get the information that to understand how the program works and then register for the program online.
All right, and she says thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so are there let's see, there's another question here. Do you have a calculated carbon footprint for your plants?
We do not. We recently, I think just 2018 was the first environmental report that we did. So it is probably something that we're going to be working towards. We just finished our second report, and we'll be doing another one this year. So I'm sure that's something that they'll be working on.
All right. Thank you. All right. So any other questions for Stephanie? I think that might be it. So do you have any last minute comments?
No, I think the biggest thing would be, when in doubt, check, verify first. And then if you have questions, please reach out to us. We're here, we can help and answer questions. Plastic film recycling is confusing, even to those who've been in the business forever. So we're happy to help as much as we can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was very informative. I didn't know the check to see if the plastic stretches. I think
Yes.
that's a really, really good tidbit for everybody to bring home with them today. And I hope that the schools that are participating, they can get out the information and maybe start participating in your program. So,
and there's still time. We did our official launch on November 15th. But really, I would say through mid-January, if schools were interested in participating, they could, and they would still have a successful campaign.
Okay. Wonderful.
And hey, Stephanie, your questions that came through, I just have a question for teachers and students. Did they know the two places in their area that they can take their plastic bags to be recycled?
I did not provide that information in the presentation.
I'm just curious if they
Yeah.
know it, do we have any teachers that are taking materials, or students or families of students that are taking plastic material in our area?
That's a good question. Let's see. Heidi says, could you share employment opportunities with our career centers at high schools? So she's actually looking for a direct connection between Trex and high schools, so that students know what career opportunities they might have.
Heidi, if you send me your information, I will see what I can do to connect you with somebody in our human resources department.
All right. And what's your email? It's going to be available to everybody, but would you mind just saying it real quickly?
Sure. Probably the easiest and it's easy to remember is recycle@trex.com.
All right. And she says, thank you. So that's wonderful. Okay, so I appreciate your time, and we're going to move on. If you would mind stop sharing your screen, that would be awesome. And
I'm going to listen into Lauren's presentation. I know Lauren.
Absolutely.
So I want to hear her presentation as well.
That sounds wonderful. I'm gonna have her share her screen in just a moment after introduction. So we can see her presentation. So Lauren, you are with us, correct?
Hey, yeah, I'm on.
Okay, you're on. Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Lauren Cullip is from RDS of Virginia. RDS of Virginia is the regional recycling company that processes household materials into sorted bales that get sent to end vendors that to be made into new items. Lauren has a background in recycling and solid waste management. So if students have questions about the industry, she's a great one to ask. She began as a sustainability intern with the dining services at James Madison University, and her interest developed further when she chose to study solid waste management and research the hindrances involved in recycling and what can be recycled, what can't be recycled. So she decided to look for potential solutions for her capstone project at JMU. Her passion for the environment fuels what she does at RDS, and that's wonderful. And she enjoys any opportunity to educate others on proper recycling behavior. So that's one reason why we have her with us today. And we're very excited to hear her. Her topic is what can and can't be recycled and where does it go. So welcome, Lauren. And if you want to share your screen for your presentation, that would be wonderful.
All right, thank you. And yeah, good to see a couple of familiar faces on here. Stephanie, great presentation, and definitely ties into kind of what can and can't be recycled with us as like a municipality level. So I'm going to go ahead and share here. So I think if I just share my main screen, then I'll just pull up my presentation.
This should work, yeah, that would be fine.
All right, so.
And just put it on slideshow. Yep, you got it. All right, it's all yours.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm going to have a little bit of interactive opportunity here. So I know I'll have to try to figure out how to find the chat, or if someone can kind of help through that. I wanted to, give students a chance to kind of answer some questions and kind of see where we're at now with their knowledge, and then maybe what we learned throughout this presentation. So yeah, as Kimberly kind of introduced, I've been with the company about 2 years now, and I work in business development and outreach. So I'm either submitting proposals to expand the amount of volume we're taking in at our existing facilities, or actually working on opening up new facilities or going in and operating other facilities in different regions. And then the outreach component, especially now that we're able to really get out in the community a little more, still got some of these virtual components, but I really want to help, educate and work with the community on proper recycling, because as I'll explain, contamination is a big issue we face. And it's very understandable with the confusion in what's accepted and not. So I'll get into that. So getting started here. So just kind of an overview. Here's some of our management team. We've had a couple strategy summits. And we're really working. Yeah. Can you see that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute.
No, you're fine. So yeah, just gonna go through a few of these things here. And so getting started. So this is something I wasn't sure if we'd be able to do. If everyone has their phone, you can go ahead and take this quick survey. I think it's just, just a few questions. And I think this is where you just hold up your camera. If you have a smartphone, if students are allowed to be on their phones, you just scan that, and I'll be able to get those results to kind of see where people are at with their understanding of recycling. I'll just give a few minutes there, and if anyone kind of wants to let me know when they're done with that, we can keep it moving. All right, has everyone kind of a chance to pull that up and go through the questions? Are we still working on it? And that's something I'll get the results. So if you need extra time, I'll be able to see that later. So, and then I'll show you your answers there. So I don't need to go through the correct answers. So I'll just move on. All right, so and then just a couple of other questions. And so hopefully the first one has already been answered by our previous presentation, which is great. So one thing, and one of the biggest contaminants we get, what should you do with your plastic grocery bags? And all right, thank you, did the survey. And so I'll just go ahead and say, hopefully Stephanie covered that. So we do not want, even though it's one of the things that's confusing because we see that recycling symbol on our bags, that you think you can just go ahead, especially people that think bagging up their recyclables helps when they send it to the recycling facility, but you want to, you see that recycling symbol, that means you want to go ahead and take it to that separate drop-off station. So maybe at a local grocery store that participates, as Stephanie discussed, that'll go to Trex. And then list the materials accepted in local single stream recycling program. So I don't know in the chat if anyone wanted to write in their knowledge of that. So this is if you get it collected at the curbside if you're in the city, or if you're in one of the counties, you might go through parents, bring it to a drop-off center. Does anyone know the different items that you could put in there? And then as if anyone's hopefully putting something in there, the last one is if anyone knows what a MRF is and what purpose that serves. That's something we'll also be going over in this.
So Lauren, I'm looking in the chat and we don't have responses just yet.
Even if any of the teachers want to, I don't know if they're able to chime in or type anything in, we'll go over this either way. So it's unknown.
I do know from the environmental education programs that we do in schools that many of the students are confused as to what should be recycled and what shouldn't. And in our plastic recycling programs, we teach a lot about seeing where the numbers are, how to tell what type of plastic they're holding, and whether they are recyclable or not, especially in the city versus not. So, so yes, I think the education programs that you are doing are very good. Let's see. One of the teachers said that mixed paper can be recycled in Roanoke County at community drop-offs.
Yep. So that's one of the items. So yeah, there's Roanoke County drop-offs, and that's something you can look up, Roanoke County recycling program, and it'll show you the different locations for those drop-off locations. Not everyone knows that there is that option just because it isn't picked up at the curbside like the city, but there you can bring the materials. We'll go over here. And then the question about, pizza boxes. So that's totally fine. That's one of the things that I learned when I started working here, that they are recyclable. I always thought you'd have to compost them or just throw them away because of the grease and cheese, but that all that gets removed in the process where it's actually remanufactured. So that's cardboard is one of the recyclable items in our program. And then I'll go over that last question as we recap. Okay, so I just wanted to show, so material recovery facility, that's what a MRF is. So that's where I work at our facility in Roanoke, and we have a couple others, and some of the items are paper, cardboard, plastic bottles, and tin/aluminum cans. And that's where we basically get them mixed in and we sort them out and bale them up to then be sent to actually be made into new things. And so just wanted to show you a couple short videos. Hopefully the volume will convey here, and I'm just gonna open up a big slide here. Hopefully it's still sharing that, right? As it loads on here.
Yes, it's still sharing your screen.
All right. Oh, we got a plastic ad. That's interesting. It knows its audience. All right, skip ads. All right, so I'm just gonna show you the first few minutes here as it walks through our facility here. We actually have 4 now. We've added one.
Can you share your sound, Lauren?
Okay, is it? Yeah, it's not coming through right now. So how would I go in? Okay, how do I share sound?
If you go in under your options.
If your sound is on your video, and if you're not wearing a headset, it should come through.
Okay, so maybe if I take out the headphones, it'll come through.
And yeah, that might work.
Okay, well, let's try that. All right, so let me know if you get this sound. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Awesome.
A combined volume of approximately 4,500 tons.
You might just want to increase the volume a little bit.
Follow the journey your household recycling takes as it's recovered inside of our Roanoke MRF and then reintroduced to the global market. The process begins once drivers weigh in on the scale. The materials dropped onto the tipping floor for collection. A loader operator then loads the material into the tractor or hopper. The hopper breaks up the material onto an inclined belt headed to pre-sort. Pre-sort is where non-recyclable contaminants are removed, such as plastic bags, wood, scrap metal, and clothing. Large star rollers carry cardboard up onto the OCC line, while all other materials fall onto a separate conveyor for further sorting. The OCC belt drops the fully sorted cardboard onto a designated spot on the floor to be pushed into a bunker under the fiber line. The fine screen uses smaller rolling stars and a fan to blow and separate shredded paper into a bunker, while broken glass pieces fall into another bunker. Larger materials continue to the front screen, where more inclined star rollers lift paper material onto the fiber line as plastic and metal drop onto the container line. The fiber line is refined and fully sorted by 2 AMP robotics recycling robots. The AMP robots use camera vision systems, artificial intelligence, and pneumatic arms to efficiently remove any remaining plastic bags, bottles, cans, and cardboard. The mixed fiber material line then empties into its designated bunker. Back on the container line, bottles and cans enter the T-Tech optical sorter. The T-Tech uses optical scanners and pressurized air jets to propel PET bottles onto a belt headed for the PET bunker. A rolling overhead magnet then lifts ferrous metals such as steel cans and sends them to their bunker. 2 more AMP robots program to sort HDPE or number 2 plastic containers into 2 bunkers. Color for primarily laundry detergent bottles, and naturals, which are mainly milk jugs. The second robot also fixed any PET bottles missed by the T-Tech. The final sort is the eddy current, which repels aluminum cans onto a separate line headed for the aluminum bunker. Any missed products or residue of non-recyclable materials end up at the overage pile to be baled and sent to the landfill. All sorted material goes to the baler directly from their bunkers or by a loader. The baler belt loads the material into the baler, which compacts and wire ties each bale before pushing them out onto the floor where a forklift operator stacks them for storage. RDS staff then coordinates with vendors to transport the materials for reprocessing in various markets, such as in a steel or paper mill, and then the process is complete. The RDS staff works diligently to keep up with the constantly changing recycling market, ensuring continued diversion of materials from landfills to manufacturers where they are given another useful life as new products.
The RDS is a recycling company.
So that kind of covers our little virtual tour. And I'll just pull back up my presentation. And there's actually another more recent video as part of the Recycle Right campaign with Clean Valley Council as one of the members in the different municipalities participating. And so I'll just check here. So that this goes over some of the other contaminants we see and then also provides a virtual tour, but I'll just kind of loop back if we have time at the end to show that one as well. And I made a note, we actually are now operating a facility in Athens, Georgia as well. So always working on expanding out to service more communities in need. So I'll go on to the next one.
RDS has 3
Next. All right, so here's just kind of shows you as it comes in, things are all mixed together. And something I note in that other video is that, you're kind of skeptical right away. You're like, this just looks like a bunch of trash. And then as it gets sorted out by each step that video walked you through, you see how it gets to these end bales that are sent to be made into new things. The plastics are often downcycled, it's called, into like textiles, maybe carpeting, different things like that, while things like cardboard are usually pulped down and made right back into cardboard boxes, and same with like the steel cans, things like that. So it's pretty neat knowing that, a lot of these products are, going on and seeing new life. And so it showed in that video, AMP Robotics is one of the big reasons we've been able to continue operating throughout the past few years of really unpredictable markets, and as well as COVID. I mean, you saw a lot of these bigger companies with people standing side by side along the sort lines were, facing outbreaks of, these COVID. And so we were able to automate and keep them safe. They're not reaching, potentially grabbing needles, things like that. We just have, very limited sort line just to get the big bulky items that might come through that aren't quite at the stage of to be able to be automated yet. And so that kind of helps with that. And then with those positions that had a lot of turnover, it's been able to replace that. So really neat technology there. And there are a couple of videos on our website if you want to see more about how this works. So these are all linked right to our website, and turn the volume off on there, but it just shows how it detects as it comes through the line, and we're able to pull out things like those HDB number 2 plastics, and then PET as well, and then pulling out contaminants on that fiber line like it showed here. All right, so what do we accept and why? So here's an infographic we use, and just goes through. I actually updated this image to show without bottle caps, because that's one of the big contaminants we see in the glass we still do accept. And glass isn't on here because it's been taken out of some of the local programs, and I'll get into why there's a lot of issues with that. But the main things, you got your cans, steel, tin, or aluminum, and paper includes cardboard, mixed paper, and then the plastic, we say bottles and jugs, because once you get into containers, that's, if you think about your sour cream, your butter containers, those are usually number 5. So if you look at the bottom of your jug or bottle, it's usually, if it's a number 1 or 2, it'll be accepted with us, but you can always reach out and ask. And some of the things we don't are mainly those tanglers, so things like bags and hoses and cords, things like that, as well as clothing will get wrapped around our equipment. As you saw where the containers are being separated out from the fiber, they make those equipment less efficient. So we don't want to see those in ours, especially things like electronics. That's another thing where, it can maybe be recycled in a certain setting, but not in just like your single stream supply. And then some of the reasons that we do or don't accept items. So there's got to be a place to send it after, and there's got to be enough coming in. So that's another issue with the number 5 plastics. There's not a high enough volume to get those bales that we stack up and send out to end vendors within every month. And so it'd be sitting around trying to, add enough to actually make any money off of it, because ultimately we are a business and we need to see that profit. And those end markets are things that, they might vary time to time, but we want to make sure there's always going to be that demand enough for us to keep it in our program. And then we also have to have equipment available to sort it out, because we can't just decide one day we want to accept something else and not have that in the sort line set up. And so struggle with glass recycling. So this is something I always referred to glass. I was like, oh, it's, infinitely recyclable. It doesn't degrade. Like plastics can only be recycled maybe a few times until it loses some quality. But when you think about it, it breaks, shatters into everything. It makes a mess. It's heavy, so it's expensive to transport. It's also different colors. And so it's really difficult in a single stream program to extract out that clean product. And so we've really been holding out at our Roanoke facility, trying to keep it out of the landfill, because we know it does have a lot of inherent value. And so that's taken a long time, but we do have some machinery processing it now. And so our hope is to use it for clean fill in construction projects, road bedding, things like that. So if people that might be interested in that product, we're working on getting approval for it and moving forward with it. But that's why you've seen a lot of issues with it not being accepted in all our programs in the region. And so just showing the material life cycle, this is something I never really understood until I worked in the industry. What happens once I put it in the bin. And so that's the consumer stage, you put it in there and then it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I think that's why a lot of people try to recycle everything they can, everything they can think of, because they want to hope, it's the wish cycling concept of, maybe it will be recycled, so let me just put it in there. But really we end up having that cost at the recycling facility to send it to the landfill. We have to pay that tipping fee. And we also have to pull it out of our equipment. We have to pull it off the line. We could be focusing on, making our processes more efficient and maximizing the amount of actual recycled products we are bailing up and sending to the end vendors. And so from there it goes the hauler. So we don't get involved as much on the collection side. So that's why there's City of Roanoke trucks, County of Roanoke, Vinton, Salem, they all have their own hauling, or private companies also help out with that component. They bring it to us, we're the sorters, and then sent to those paper mills, steel mills, different manufacturing facilities that actually make it into new products. And then those get put back on shelves. And so that's why we try to get that, circular economy going with the use of recycling. And this is a really great website if we're looking for more articles or to learn more about recycling, resourcerecycling.com. They talk about where the markets are at, where the value compared to this time last year, or different issues with, for example, how the supply chain issues are affecting recycling and a lot of things like that. So it's a great tool. And then I just wanted to show that we're on a variety of social media sites. So that's a great way to kind of stay involved and know what's happening. I talked about, when we were making changes to the glass processing, when we opened up our Athens facility, and then I usually go over the where the market's at with the different products. And then when we have tours, you might get featured on there. So here's just some great tools to stay involved in recycling in Roanoke, in the region. And then also, if you have interest in touring that facility I showed first, in person, that's my email. If you have any questions, and if you want to get this newsletter, I'll send out quarterly. That's how you stay involved there. Any questions right now? Trex. How closely is RDS working with companies like Trex? So I'll go over some questions at the end. And then, so just to recap those questions I showed before. So I mentioned with the drop-off locations, there's actually a link you can search to see where locally there are those agreements with Trex to send your plastic films. And then materials accepted, like that infographic showed. We have the plastic number 1, which is PET, number 2, HDPE bottles and jugs, and then mixed paper, cardboard, aluminum, and steel cans. And again, glass is still included in the city, but there might be some changes with that because it's usually a lot easier to process when it's separated out from that single stream. And then we went over what MRF is. So that's where materials are sorted out and built up to deliver to end market vendors. And so here's another few questions. I don't know if we'll get too much participation, but if teachers are able to relay any questions from your class, I just wanted to know if they learned why our tangler's bad in a recycling facility. And here's some images kind of showing that, if anyone can describe it. And then what type of metal can be accepted in a typical single stream program and why. And then what stage of recycling does MRF handle? So I'll give a few minutes there, see if anyone wants to write up an answer to those.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren. This is a very informative talk, and I hope everyone learned a lot from it. I certainly did. The facilities are very impressive. And I did not realize how much robotics was used in the recycling industry. So I hope that makes students who are interested in engineering and robotics know that they have a whole other avenue for careers that they may not have known about before. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our goal, just to, if there's opportunities for, I've had a couple interns at this point, and we want people to be able to come do research. I've had Virginia Tech students come through and interview us and go ahead and get that tour through the facility, get pictures. And so we're always looking for opportunities to partner with, surrounding universities, schools. And, I'd love to come into classes and, do these type of talks and just have more ways to engage with the community. And so, definitely it's really neat. It's, state-of-the-art technology. And this is where I think a lot of our industries are going to be heading in the future. And so just being in the know, I think, is really important for this industry and others. So happy to share.
Absolutely. So let's see, we do have a couple of questions here.
Yeah, we actually have to start with the question from William. How closely is RDS working with companies like Trex to provide a truly closed loop reuse of materials?
And sorry, how do I get the little videos back up? Does anyone know how I can, so I can't see anyone.
Videos of your own.
So if I see like who's speaking or anything right now, I just can't see where you all are. Went away.
That was that was actually a Clean Valley Council. That was
okay.
Traquan from
I think just stop sharing and then you'll be able to see everybody.
Okay, let me do that. Yeah, because there's everyone. All right, so
hey Lauren, up at the top corner there's the view panel. Can you see it? As a little grid. So just drop that.
So we can all see you, and now
then you can see us.
You should be able to see everybody else.
It's not just a random voice. All right. So one of the something I guess I didn't touch on. There are a couple organizations, and so that's how I know Stephanie through VRA, Virginia Recycling Association. And so we, for example, had a conference last month, and so we usually also have like lunch and learns, is where we'll tour a facility. And then, I'll kind of just network with industry contacts. And so we're able to kind of see, discuss where the market's at and, if there are opportunities to partner. And that's why I try to plug in these other, for example, like locally, Omnisource is one of the places where scrap metal can go. And so that's when people are calling, asking us where to bring certain things, and say, oh, no, not us, but here's where you can. Because I don't want to say, nope, and then hang up. Because, there's ways to, provide opportunities for learning and education, even if it doesn't directly involve RDS. So that's one of the opportunities there. And so I've been able to, see the Trex facility and understand more firsthand of what's going on there. So definitely want to kind of stay in the loop with all the partners.
All right. And then one other question has to do with can you describe the difference between upcycling and downcycling?
Yeah. So downcycling is where I mentioned with plastics a lot of times and so that's kind of, Trex is a great example of that. It's not, the plastic film isn't being made into another plastic bag. It's being made, it's being incorporated with other things, being made into the decking and different things they produce. And so that's how that refers. And I know just regular, I guess, I don't know if it would be upcycling, but an alternative to that would be, making new cardboard boxes or steel cans, things from that. Probably usually they use a little bit of the virgin material and then add in some of the recycled contents as well. And then upcycling, I think that's even separate. It's like a way to kind of take something you have and then use it for, not having to go through all that machinery and that process, but being able to use it for something else. So I think that.
Now, I actually have a question about plastic bottle recycling. I've noticed on some products now it says to recycle the bottle with the cap on. Is that something that your facilities can handle, or should we still take the caps off?
So, and that's a great question. I think Courtney might have been involved. We were talking the other day in the Recycle Right campaign of like, this is why it's confusing. And it's the same thing when you see like clamshell containers, and a lot of times there's not like a very great answer. But for me, I don't want to see people taking off the cap and then putting them separately in the bin because it's so small. That's going to end up as a contaminant in our glass, where you saw with the fine screen where things drop down. If they're basically anything smaller than like a business card, they're going to end up even like the steel can lids. So and that's something, there's also a local organization called Sustainable Roanoke. That's a great way to hold on to some of those other materials like the number 5s. And so like my orange juice container, I have the clear PET bottle and the orange thick lid. It's a number 5, it says in the middle. So I set that aside and I'll take it to that separate kind of hard to recycle collection event they do monthly, and then just keep the bottle without the cap. But some of the benefits of taking the cap off are also because it'll be empty, because some people keep the cap on and it's still full of, you know, soda or liquid. And then when you see the way that there's streams of air that send plastic bottles onto their other line, but if they're too heavy to do that, they'll just drop down and they won't end up getting recycled. And also if it does come open, it'll cause a mess. And so that's some of the benefits of keeping it off. But one of the things I also noticed when that French screen is separating out the fibers from the containers, some of, and another term for the industry, source production, is when, you know, plastic bottles used to be really thick and, you know, heavy, and now they've reduced the amount of plastic in those, so they're so lightweight, so that now if they caps off, they get crushed, they're flat, it literally looks like a piece of paper. So a lot of times it's so lightweight, it'll end up being a contaminant. And that's why you saw those 2 robots pulling out plastics from that fiber line. And so if they end up, they'll just be discarded from there, unfortunately. So that's, I don't know if having the cap on would have made a difference in those. So there's still a lot of things that are being understood. It's the same thing with clamshells. They're so lightweight and thin, so a lot of times they might end up on the fiber line instead. And it's a different type of plastic. It's called thermoform with those, like where you get your berry containers. So it's not always as cut and dry as we might like it to be. But right now, I had that updated image. It does have the caps off, meaning that the caps taken off and put in the trash, and then just recycle that bottle. So that's what we're going with for now.
All right, thank you very much for the explanation. We do have quite a few questions for you.
Another question was, does RDS have an intern opportunity for high school students?
So far I've only had recent college graduates. Actually wrapping up this afternoon, I had a marketing and outreach intern that was helping me. She had graduated from Roanoke College. I think the last one was a graduate from there as well. But high school students, we actually did have someone that came in and helped us out with a recent community event where we were giving people tours and had some games set up, and we're doing a banner, pledge to protect. And so that was a high school that came out and helped. Just, it wasn't a paid opportunity or anything consistent. It was just, they came in a couple of times and said, I have a class project, I need some help on it. I want to learn about recycling and what I can do in my community. And I said, come on out, help us with this event. And then, if you can help present to your class, we're always looking for ways to kind of partner, and we're happy to have high school students out to tour the facility and work with us in that way. So, yeah.
Another question to connect with that would be, what kind of degree do you need to work for Trex or RDS?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have an environmental science background, but we have people from backgrounds in just management, like with retail and things like that, and business, like accounting, finance type majors, because it's always good to know that side of the industry. And I don't know if Stephanie wants to comment on with her.
Yeah, I think for Trex, I think you have to, it could be anything. So it would just depend on what aspect of the business you want to be involved in. My degree is in business administration and marketing. But I mean, depending on if you were in engineering, of course, you'd have to be have an engineering degree. It just depends on what aspect of the business you're interested in. And a lot of our jobs don't require any degree at all. But for what I do, that is what I went to school for.
Yeah, and that's a great point. A lot of the more hands-on program or hands-on positions with us don't require a degree because they're just out there. For people like the maintenance mechanics, we want them to have experience for sure. But other people like sort line, if they can hop in, they can learn, the baler operator, forklift. It's more just looking for that job experience or training instead of the college degree. So there's always options. If you don't want to be sitting behind a computer every day, there's more ways to get out in the facility and learn without having that college background.
Fantastic. And we actually also have some answers from students for your questions. And so I'm not sure you can see the chat, but it actually says that tanglers wrap around recyclables and equipment, and MRF is materials recovery facility, and aluminum steel cans can be recycled. Yeah,
no, those are all great. Yeah, so the tanglers, so you see like that French screen, I had a photo of me I had to pull out Christmas lights from those, and so that causes that to work less efficiently, because if the star rollers can't do their job, that's when you get those issues of containers ending up on the fiber line and fiber falling down and ending up in the overage pile for residue. So we want to keep those in good shape by not sending all those tanglers. Material recovery facility, and then aluminum and steel cans are the only metal we want to see. And luckily we do have an outlet. If we have to pull out those the bulk metal, we'll get scrap metal. We do send it to Omnisource, but that's just creating more work for our employees. Then anything that's missed could end up jamming up and breaking some of our equipment, which is very high cost, and it causes us to not operate as much as we'd like. So we want to keep the rest of those things out. And then I see another question: how do we go directly for the recycling number and its definition? So example number 5. So if you look up, there's kind of graphics that'll show you, like number 5 is polypropylene. I said the number 1 PET and HDPE are the number 1 and 2 that we accept. And so I think number 4 is usually what the plastic bags are, LDPE. So there's a lot of different acronyms for the different chemicals and things that are used to make those materials. So that's why you just have to kind of check, and usually it'll show you. So don't be thrown off if it says a recycling symbol. It doesn't mean it goes in your single stream recycling. But there's lots of different, and even I think styrofoam even has a name, and that's something we also don't want to see in our facility, but it might be collected at the different drop off, like the Sustainable Roanoke events. I think they have an outlet for that.
Someone in the chat actually has their hand raised.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you want to elaborate on that question?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. We have a little school that we do from the ground up at the garden. And what I'm asking for is something that I can print up or have as a handout and to discuss. The actual numbers that we see on some of the packaging, I've noticed myself that when I'm looking for my number and see what type it is, it's not there. So is there a particular site within the industry that I can go to, have the number? Number 1 is, number 2 is, and then of course we can elaborate on what we do with it and where to contact to take it.
That's a
site that will give us that definition.
Okay, I can see if I can send out, or if we can, I don't know, post with the recording or something, some different links and resources. Because I know I've used, like earlier I mentioned with my capstone project, I had kind of put up a graphic, and one of the things I think that would help recycling if we kind of consolidated how many numbers there were, because I think it's up to about 7, and what do you do if it's not labeled? And so that's how Stephanie was saying, when in doubt, you want to ask and try to figure out. But that's why I also try to go off material type. So if it's a bottle or a jug, that should be recyclable versus other containers. But we can see if there's a good site, and that definitely be something helpful just on a local scale of, okay, what do we do with each? Because just off what I've said is, here it's number 1 and 2 we take the bottles and jugs of, and then the number 5, and there's a different list on the Sustainable Roanoke site that they'll take each month when they do Saturday 9 to 12. Actually, this weekend they're doing a collection event, and they have a whole list on their website and their Facebook page of what they accept. So something like that would be a great resource for people to have.
And if possible, is that information there for recycling of garden hoses and some of the hoses that are wired? And so, because I think I answered when it said, are they recyclable? They're going to be, and I said no, because I'm knowing, having a little knowledge of how it is broken down and disseminated. I'm like, I don't think we're supposed to put those hoses in there.
No. Yeah, that's probably going to be just trash. If it's, you said something about wires, if it's like different metal, that might be something for Omnisource. If it's metal, things like copper wire and things like that. But just the hoses, if it's a plastic, just like a, random, bulky item that doesn't fit in one of those categories, doesn't have that number, I would just go ahead and just discard that, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Can I add something just to what Lauren said? And I think one of the things to know whether it's at the MRF or for Trex, anytime that you're putting something in the bin, it's all about getting a material to market. So the MRFs or whatever, it's the first step in taking what the consumer has and making it into a commodity that can be sold and then turned into something else. So the better everyone is about making sure what they put in the bin is correct, the more likely we already have nice things that are recycled into other things.
And just to share with you guys, teachers, students, exactly what Lauren mentioned. We're working on a new campaign called Recycle Right. And Amazetta, you bring up exactly what everybody is asking for is we want to do the right thing. So what's the list and what's the rule? The thing is that is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. So Clean Valley Council will have and does have on our resource page, and Kim can also share that with you all later too. But if you go to cleanvalley.org and go to our resources, it'll share some of that information that Lauren's sharing, Amazetta, that might answer some immediate. And then the links that she shared, I think we can also follow up, and presenters, I'd love to do that, is to follow up with any other infographics, any current listings. But there again, be prepared for lots of PSAs and information coming out on Recycle Right. You'll hear more about it because that is something that Clean Valley Council is working with RDS and local municipalities on doing. And students, that's a really neat and cool way for you guys to think about, wow, okay, these are careers where sharing this information, like what Stephanie Hicks has shared, what Lauren Cutlip is sharing, their careers and passion, and then even from Clean Valley Council, each of our positions, these are careers where we're sharing that information, doing work toward recycling. So whether it be hands-on, directly with the actual plastic bottle, metal, plastic bags, all the way to the very separated piece of accounting and business practices. These are careers that are there for you guys. But I just wanted to share that there are locations for those resources. And the more we have from presenters like you guys, the better we can disseminate that info. And Amazetta, good questions.
So
We
we are running a little late right now, so we're going to have to move on to our next presenter. And Lauren just put a whole bunch of awesome information in the chat program. So if everyone wants to look at those links in chat, that would be awesome. And I really appreciate all of the questions and all the interest that we've had so far. But right now, thank you, Lauren, for all the information. Stephanie, too, for hanging in to watch the Rest of Earth Summit. But right now, I'd really like to move on to our next speaker, who is Sarah Wilford. She is actually a really good follow-up to what we've already seen. She's the Efficiency and Sustainability Program Manager at Carilion Clinic. And so she facilitates and coordinates programs for the healthcare system. And part of that is to reduce inefficiency and waste and promote environmental sustainability. She actually received a master's degree in public health from Virginia Tech. And after working, she conceptualized and proposed her current position with Carilion Clinic. And she's creating a work structure for sustainability for all of Carilion's 7 hospitals. And she's helped develop the Carilion Clinic Environmental Stewardship Council. Her programs increase recycling, decrease energy utilization, decrease natural resource consumption, and diverts tens of thousands of pounds of waste from Virginia landfills annually. So part of her job is to educate and demonstrate to staff, patients, and visitors alike those links between community health, environmental health, and sustainability. Her program also received the 2019 Governor's Environmental Excellence Award Gold Medal for improving the health and the environment in the state of Virginia. We are very, very happy to have Sarah with us, and I'm sure she's going to tell us all kinds of wonderful things. So thank you, and good morning, Sarah. So you may share the screen if you'd like, and introduce yourself.
Good morning. Let me just make sure that I get the right screen up here. Are you guys seeing my slides?
Yes, it looks great.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. This has been so fun for me because we at Carilion, we actually have some nursing units that have used the Trex program and have gotten benches, and we're using those on some of our campuses. And then we've taken a couple of different tours of the RDS facility, which I highly recommend to anyone who could do that because it is really something to see. So this has been a lot of fun for me. And every time I hear both of those groups speak, I learned something new. So thank you. This has been just really great for me. I'm going to take a tiny pivot, just a little tiny pivot in the direction of the conversation today, and focus a little bit more on career paths in environmental science, and talk a little bit today about my path from a bedside nurse here at Carilion to how I came into the role that I'm in now, and then a little bit about what we're doing at Carilion to recycle, yes, but also in other programs to be more sustainable. So this is a seed. This is also a seed. Sometimes a seed can look like this, just a seed of an idea, so neat and so clean. My seed of an idea looked like this, and it was planted here in the emergency room at Roanoke Memorial Hospital, where I was a bedside nurse for 7 years. So for anyone who's not aware, Roanoke Memorial Hospital is a level 1 trauma center. Our emergency department sees 88,000 patients per year. They come in by helicopter and by ambulance. It's a place of adrenaline and excitement and sickness and healing and life and death. And I loved my job as a bedside nurse. But often after treating a patient there, I would be peering into the trash can in my patient room, noticing items that could be recycled, but we didn't have a recycling program at Carilion, items that weren't even opened and that were in the trash, items that could be reprocessed, which is basically recycling of medical devices, single-use disposable, everything, including pillows, everything was thrown out after every single patient. And my question was just this resounding why? Why are we doing it this way? When I would mention it to my friends and to my colleagues, a lot of them would say, Sarah, it's just a bag of trash. You need to relax. It's just a bag of trash. But many more would say, I know, it's crazy. We should do something about that. And then they would move on with their shift and with their day. But I couldn't move on. It was really, really bothering me. So I did some research, and the statistics that I found astounded me. And here is what I found. I found that hospitals and health systems in the United States generate 46 pounds of waste per patient day. So for every day that there is a head in a bed, that patient generates 46 pounds of trash or other waste. That equates to 11,725 tons of waste per day generated in the United States by our healthcare systems. We use 10% of the nation's energy, and we are the world's 7th largest producer of carbon dioxide, making us a major contributor to air pollution. So that's a lot of numbers. That's a lot of statistics. And so I just want to take a beat to unscramble that. So what does that look like in my healthcare system? So one patient, one day, 46 pounds of trash. This is what that looks like for one patient for one day. That's what 46 pounds of trash looks like. We have 275,633 patient days per year in our healthcare system. We generate 6.4 million pounds of trash from the Carilion Medical Center campus here in Roanoke alone. And of course, the lights are on 24/7. So my next question was, after doing some research and some preliminary digging, I determined, okay, so it's not just me, right? Like, so there was some real numbers. There were some people really looking hard at this. This was really a thing. And some of the largest healthcare systems in the country were integrating sustainability programs, environmental sustainability programs. And I wanted to know who at Carilion was working on that, because what I wanted ultimately was going back to my emergency department. I just wanted someone to put a recycling container in my emergency department. but there was no one, right? There was no one when I started asking around and trying to find that. There was no one at Carilion that was focused solely on sustainability. So in that moment, I knew that that's what I was going to do. I knew that that was what my calling was. I knew that for this healthcare system, that's what I wanted to figure out. And that's what I was going to do, was bring a sustainability program to this healthcare system. So I took the idea to my leadership team, to my boss, and they said, I like it. Your business case is not ready. Here's what you need to do. And then they said, don't stop. So I spent the next 3 years trying to figure out how to do this. How do you bring a sustainability program into a healthcare system? And also, I will mention, while I was doing this while working full-time in the emergency department and raising 2 babies. So it was a very busy time, but I was really trying to figure out how to make this happen. Like, how do you make the business case? What even is a business case? And how do you make that case for bringing a sustainability program to Carilion? So I got my master's in public health at Virginia Tech, and I utilized a program within Carilion called the Career Advancement Program that allows for bedside nurses to do additional projects on top of working at the bedside. And I used projects within both of those programs over those 3 years to demonstrate the value, not just in cost, but in waste reduction and in public health impacts when an organization invests time in these programs. At the same time, I started meeting with people within the organization and asking about their past projects and past experiences, because there's a lot to learn from the steps people have already taken, both from their successes and from their failures. And I came to understand 3 things. One was that there was a lot of things, programs and projects that were already happening within Carilion. So as an example, there was already the reusable sharps container program. So when you go to the doctor and you get a shot, after you get that shot, there's a syringe and there's a needle, right? And then typically the nurse will throw that into a little red box that's on the wall. In the past, in every hospital and in every ambulatory center that we had, they would give you that shot, put it in there, and then that box was destroyed. It was either incinerated or it was autoclaved and crushed and sent to a regulated medical waste landfill. So it was full trashed over and over and over again. And so we had, in some of our hospitals, we had developed what was called a reusable sharps program, which is basically emptying, disinfecting, and recycling those containers that were on the wall. To that point, that program had saved our healthcare system $615,000 and had diverted 754,000 pounds of plastics waste from Virginia landfills. In some of our hospitals, we had LED lighting in some areas, and others we didn't. Those areas that were using it in those sections were using as little as 8% of the energy they had previously used to illuminate those sections of the building. We'd switched 2 products, those single-use disposable pillows that I talked about. We switched those from single-use disposable that were used and then thrown out every single time to something we could disinfect and reuse, and another product, and had saved about $250,000 in a year and had diverted an additional 25,000 pounds of plastic. So we knew that in some areas, there were some really great things happening, but we knew that they were occurring in silos, meaning that, like, while it was happening in one hospital, it wasn't happening in other hospitals, or if it was happening in the hospitals, it wasn't happening in the ambulatory centers. And then the third thing was that no one knew about the benefit to any of these programs. So we weren't talking about it in this arena at all. Staff wasn't talking about it. The community at large had no idea any programs we were doing. We had so much potential in developing the story of sustainability. And these were some big numbers. So what if we took it out of the silos that it resided in and sort of spread it out around the organization? We needed an evolution. We needed an evolution in our work in sustainability with a formalized work structure with accountability and leadership engagement in order to capture and highlight and celebrate our work. But how the heck do you do that, right? So I did some research for models for best practice, and what I found was the Healthier Hospitals Initiative, which was developed by 12 of the largest healthcare systems in the United States. And it provides guides for hospitals like mine to reduce energy and waste, to choose safer, less toxic products, to purchase and serve healthier foods. And it provides frameworks and tools to get the work done. And the greatest thing about it was that it was free, because, mind you, I had no budget at the time to pay for any of this implementation or any of these tools. So it was great that it was a free resource. So this is my sort of sketch of our org chart, right? Our organization's chart from the top to the bottom. And here I am down in the bottom left corner in one emergency department, in one hospital, in this large healthcare system. And I'm just down here losing my mind with an idea that I think is so good, that has so much potential, that I feel like it has to be heard or my head might explode. But I had no idea how to get my idea from the bedside, from this bedside in the emergency department to our CEO or into the boardroom. So I started just requesting meetings with vice presidents and with physicians and the president and the CEO of the company. And I got the meetings. And so I had to come prepared with my information. So I went to the CEO and I said, Mrs. Agee, I want us to sign the Healthier Hospitals Executive Commitment Statement, which commits us to creating an environmental sustainability program with measurable outcomes so that we can prove that we're doing the work that we say we're going to do, to integrating sustainability into our core business strategies, and to tracking and sharing results both with internal and external stakeholders. And she said, Sarah, I love it. You're not ready. Here's what you need to do to improve. Don't stop. So I kept going. I sketched an outline of what this might look like as to integrate this work into our healthcare system. And then very importantly, because we are a business, of course, I had to demonstrate where we would be able to save money, how much, and when. But here's the great thing. When you reduce waste, typically you save money. Energy efficiency saves money. So this is a great way for the organization to remain salient within this program. And here's an example. So hospitals that pursue these 8 programs that you see on the screen could see an annual savings of $20,000 per operating room. Well, just for scale, Carilion has approximately 50 ORs. So this was some good math, and this was some good financial support for my desire to bring this program to the table. So the next 2 days were the 2 best days of my career. The first was 3 years after I started the journey. We got the position approved. And this was what we knew at this point was that we understood that a successful sustainability program in healthcare doesn't come from one person or from one department. It comes from engagement from all areas. So this is from corporate contracting, doing campaigns for improving recycling or starting recycling in different areas, clinical implementation, data, so much data entry, marketing and communication, staff relations, facilitating steering committees. So there's a lot of work to be done. And someone has to kind of serve as air traffic control for all of these inputs, for all of the exciting and innovative ideas that were coming in from around the organization. The second day was I was able to get our senior management team to sign the Healthier Hospitals Executive Commitment Statement. And with that, they said, let's get to work. So this is kind of a cool quote that I love. It is, healthcare is the most difficult, chaotic, and complex industry to manage today. And the hospital is altogether the most complex human organization ever devised. And I love this quote. And having worked in healthcare for 16 years, I'm not sure that truer words were ever spoken. It is a very complex environment. And yes, we did add an entirely new layer of complexity, but what an amazing layer it is. So what have we done? The most important number one thing that we do is cultivating a spirit of sustainability. So we have oversight committees, we have work groups, we have green teams, we have over 100 sustainability champions across the enterprise helping us to accomplish our goals. And I point out all of these smiles. People love this work. People love this program. We came hard at waste and trying to reduce waste across our hospitals. We started recycling programs in 4 hospitals that didn't have it. We did a program that changed the way patients order food to help decrease food waste by 25,000 pounds a year. We increased reprocessing from 13,000 pounds to 21,000 pounds a year. So that's basically, like I said, recycling medical devices. We integrated our mission donation program, which has diverted 130,000 pounds of waste from landfills. In healthcare, oftentimes there are unused, unopened products that have to be thrown out for a number of reasons. It could be that they're expired. It could be that we switched vendors. It could be that we're going through a conversion to a different material. It could be a number of reasons why we have this surplus. And in the past, all that unopened product was going into the trash. And now we're able to capture it, and we send it out through our partners in international aid organizations like Gleaning for the World or Brothers Brother, so that they can go into the international mission field and help people who just desperately need it. Battery recycling, we hit that really hard last year. We were able to increase our recycling at Memorial of batteries from 1,500 pounds to 13,000 pounds a year, just by focusing in on that program. We're looking a lot. We looked hard at leaner energy, at helping our facilities become better, more energy efficient. We did an LED upgrade, which is switching out light bulbs to more efficient bulbs here at Roanoke Memorial. We switched out 30,000 bulbs, and we were able to see a 4 million kilowatt hour annual decrease in electricity use from Roanoke Memorial. We created the solar tracking field at New River Valley Medical Center, which generates 17% of the hospital's annual electrical requirements. And at our hospital in Franklin in Rocky Mount, they did a lot of work on their systems, and they were able to save almost 16,000 gallons of fuel oil, which is enough to heat 31 homes for a year, by making improvements to our mechanical system. So we're always looking at different ways that we can improve. So between the LED, to give it some perspective, between the LED upgrade and the solar tracking field, we are able to decrease our carbon dioxide emissions by 10 million pounds per year. And what that equates to is 1,000 cars off the road each year, or the CO2 emissions, the carbon dioxide emissions for 546 homes energy use from 1 year gone. So we think this is really important, and we continue to look at that. We look at healthier food. We built a community garden in Southeast Roanoke, which is kind of a known food desert. And it's a place where area community members can go, and they can take classes, or they can help to volunteer in the garden, and they can take home fresh, free local produce, which is a great way to support our local foods movement. And we've increased local food purchases from $58,000 to $349,000 per year. And the reason I point that out is because when you look at local foods and why the local food movement is so important, when something the size of a healthcare system, when you think about how many patients and visitors and staff members we have to feed every single day, it matters if we bring our apples from California or if we bring our apples from local farms, right? I mean, the transportation, the emissions, not to mention the fact that we just want to support local farmers and local vendors. And we're not done. We have goals to reduce blue wrap going to landfills, which is what you see in the top left corner from our ORs, by 50%. We want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from our waste anesthetic gases. We want to evaluate composting at all of our hospitals. We want to achieve an 80% recycling rate and diversion rate from construction and demolition on new projects, potentially reducing landfill waste by well over 1 million pounds per year, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions with every project that we do. So the idea is working, right? The seed of my idea is growing. So as you move into college or into your next step, or to finding your career, whatever the next step is for you, I want to encourage anyone with an idea to pursue it boldly. If you know it's right, I want you to be relentless. I want you to boldly ask why. If you don't like the answer, ask someone else. If you don't like their answer, ask even another person. Do not accept answers like, we used to do it that way, we tried that, it didn't work. Try again. If it doesn't happen immediately, if whatever your idea is doesn't happen immediately, I don't want you to be discouraged. Believe me, because these are the things that I was told along the way as I was pursuing my idea. Oh, honey, that's not a job, that's a hobby. If a position like this is created, then you will be the first person we think of. That wasn't enough for me. I love this idea. I'm not sure what to do with you or where to put you. You're not ready. Here's what you need to do. Don't stop. Do you see how the message changed as I persisted? So anyone going into the medical field, any future doctors, nurses, medical technicians out there, this is called a nice normal sinus rhythm. This is your heartbeat. This is very clean. And this was my vision of the way my program should go. Clean and neat, not complicated. And yes, most days it feels a lot more like this. My days can be chaotic and complex and really, really hard. And yours will be too if you pursue your ideas, but you still have to go for it, because it's never really just a bag of trash, right? Now, what's your idea? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was an amazing presentation. Your story is so inspiring, to go from your idea to this amazing comprehensive sustainability program. I did not know your story, and I just want to commend you on your journey and what you've been able to accomplish. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
And so do we have any questions for Sarah? I was just actually very surprised by the pounds of trash. I knew the patients had a lot of trash every day. You could see that if you go into a hospital, and because of you think, oh, they need to have that amount of trash because of the germs and keeping down with bacterial growth and such. But I didn't realize how overwhelming it was. Your Healthier Hospitals initiative, is that something that is nationwide? Is that something that's independent of Carilion? How does that work? And then if students are interested, how do they get into a program, be able to work with sustainability in hospitals?
Yeah. So the Healthier Hospitals Initiative is a national initiative that's actually through, there's two organizations. One is called Practice Green Health, and the other one is Healthcare Without Harm. And those are the websites that I discovered when I was really just kind of thinking like, this is really bugging me, and just literally just shooting Google searches out into the universe to try to figure out what the heck was going on. And that's where I found that. So those are still available. I think the actual Healthier Hospitals initiative was an initiative. So there was it was kind of time bound, but all of the goals that you wanted, that you could seek to accomplish through those goals are still out there and accessible through those two websites.
Okay, that's awesome to know. There is a comment that Amazon just says thank you for your beneficial work and your determination to make a sustainable imprint or footprint on the world. So, and I think all of us feel that same way. So, are there any other questions out there? If not, we are running a few minutes behind. So it would be good to go to the next speaker if possible. We'll give a few more seconds to go. And if you could, in the chat, if you could put, if you have any websites or resources that people could possibly link to, that would be great. And if you know of any internships at the hospital, if you're going to be offering any internships for high school students or college students within your program, there might be some interest in that as well.
Sure, I'm glad to put that in there.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it, your input again. And
Lauren also says great presentation as well.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so thank you again, Sarah. I certainly did learn a lot. Our next speaker is Heather Butler, and she's a professor at Virginia Western Community College. And she's actually the program head for the Associate of Science degree program. She has a background and interest in plant ecology, and she's also helped students find jobs and is a big mentor for sustainability as well. And so, Heather, if you would like to join us and you can share your screen for your presentation, that would be great. Heather is going to talk to us about careers in sustainable related fields and courses to take, and she has much information to share with us. So if we could get Heather, if you could on, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, can everyone hear me okay? I'm here, all right. Oh, thank you for asking me to join in on this. I wish we could be in person. Maybe one of these days we can be back to in-person Earth Summits. But
that would be wonderful.
I know. I wish I'd been able to hear the previous speakers. I've been teaching a class, but I was able to tie into the last few minutes of Sarah Wilford's talk, and that was wonderful. And it ties in a little bit with what I'm going to talk about today. So let's see. Kim, you said I could share. I have screen sharing capability.
Yes, you do have screen sharing capabilities, and I did not mention that Heather has actually been involved in Earth Summits for a number of years. Is that correct? Much longer than I have, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was funny, on my, the Facebook memories that pop up yesterday was 10 years ago. I had taken some high school students to the first Earth Summit at the Jefferson Center, which was really neat. I was like, oh, okay, I've been doing this a long time.
That's amazing. Wow. I'll bet they're very different than today's Earth Summits, especially the virtual format.
Yeah.
If you could just do your slideshow from beginning or something, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the Zoom bars in my way, so I'm trying to. There we go. All right, can everyone see my PowerPoint? So I'll tell a little bit about myself. Kim introduced me. My degrees are in forest resource management. I got my undergraduate and graduate degrees in forestry from Virginia Tech and Penn State. And I've had kind of an interesting career pathway into where I am today. So I did some environmental consulting for several years with wetland delineations and endangered species surveys and environmental site assessments. Then I did several years of forestry work as a procurement forester and forest manager in private industry, and then took a career path into teaching. I thought it was time to get out of the woods and actually start teaching some, passing on the knowledge. And I've had a lot of fun since then. I started at the high school level, and now I'm teaching at Virginia Western. And I teach like Ken said, the plant science classes, dendrology, which is tree identification. That's a lot of fun. The plant life of Virginia class in the summer, and then general bio 101 and 102. So when Kim asked me to give a talk about career, college majors in natural resources and careers, I started thinking about it, and I was realizing it's really changed a lot over the years. It was kind of narrow. If you wanted to make a difference with the environment and just the planet in general or natural resources, you were pretty much limited to the majors that I'll talk a little bit about: forestry, wildlife, fisheries. But now, like with Sarah's talk, we know that we are seeing the need to have changes in all realms of society. So you can make a difference. When I started making this PowerPoint, I realized I need to really broaden the scope. So given that I only have like 25 minutes to do this, what I've done is I've made a PowerPoint that has a lot of hyperlinks in it that I don't have time to go over, but I was hoping that it could be distributed among all the students, to share the file with everyone, and you guys can take the time to explore. So I was seeing this as a beginning search effort, I guess, for the students' part. So I started thinking about, I'll do the career talk first and then the college part. So, at this point, like in high school or a young adult, you're trying to figure out which direction you want to go in. You want to do something you're interested in, but you want it to be meaningful, right? You want to do something that makes a difference, that isn't just a paper trail, that you have a definite impact. But this is really hard. How do you match that up? And in the high school age and even through college, you really don't know all the options out there. It's, you might have heard a few catchphrases here and there, but there are so many careers. And then even within the careers, there's so many majors, college majors, and levels of degrees that you can go in to achieve that. And it can be really overwhelming. So what I'm going to try and do is plot out a pathway for you all to begin that search, to help it not be quite so overwhelming. So one thing that's helpful is, you want to be true to yourself. So when you start this whole thing, you want to ask yourself a few questions. What are your interests? What are my interests and strengths? In broad terms, do you like being outside? Do you like working with people? Would you rather be in an office? Do you like working with technology? Think about what your interests and strengths are. And on top of that, what type of environment do I see myself enjoying? Are you okay with an office environment? Would you rather be outside in the different types of environment? Would you rather be in a hands-on factory type situation or construction? There's so many different areas, and we have to be, think about what we're most comfortable with. Or even, if you don't have experience in it, if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and learn what these new environments are like. And then you want to ask, how can I use my strengths and interests to make a difference in our environment and quality of life? And then you've got to match up the college major with the desired career, and what level you want to go through there. So what I'm going to do next is what I did was I kind of brainstormed and broke it into chunks. And I'm going to start off with the more traditional pathway with natural resources. And then I'm going to show what some more recent areas are that you can investigate. So the natural resources area is huge. That in itself, you have a lot of options. You have the traditional forestry, and within forestry, there are different management levels there. Fisheries management, wildlife management. Something being from the East Coast, I didn't realize there was a range management. I had an internship in Colorado, Southern Colorado, with the Bureau of Land Management. And I had coworkers who had gotten their degrees out west in range management. We don't have open range here in Virginia like they do in Utah and Wyoming. And so there's a whole degree where you learn all about how to manage the open range, the grasses, the soils, and the herbivores on them. There's wildland recreation management. How do you manage people interfacing with wild areas? There's water quality resource management in urban and rural areas. Environmental consulting, where you work with industries that are wanting to do their industrial thing and make their product, but they need to follow the environmental regulations. That's what I did for a while. That was really interesting. GIS, and if you're really into computers and you're good with software, that's a great area to go into. Land use planners. This is great for urban environments, how to efficiently and sustainably plan an urban or suburban development. Natural resources education. If you really like teaching people and working with kids or all the way up to adults, if you want to pass the information along, there's that aspect of it. Extension agents, all farmers and growers and people that use the natural resources eventually will meet up with an extension agent. They're the professionals that can give advice on landowners on how to manage their soil and water and how to manage their crops sustainably. And then if you really love this stuff, you can go on and get a PhD level and do the research, which that's, the terminal degree right there. And you can do research in any one of these fields. So I just kind of threw together some pictures of just some field work in natural resources. We've got, wildlife tagging up here, these brave people sedating this mountain lion, hoping to be done in time before it wakes up. We've got wildlife ecologists, we have fisheries biologists, range management here on the bottom left. I'm not sure what this guy might be radio tagging, trying to find signals from a tagged animal. So many different levels. And I have to say, my time in environmental consulting and forestry, being outside is so nice. It's so fun. I mean, you have days where it is cold or it is hot. It is uncomfortable, but in the end, it's worth it. It's so rewarding. Just some more pictures. And, of course, there's private industry options and there are government options. Here on the bottom left, we have the Bureau of Land Management, which we don't have here in the East. That's a Western federal agency. We have the National Park Service on the bottom right. We have the Forest Service, extension agents up here on the upper right, which tend to work through our state universities. And then forest management on the upper left. I just kind of picked some random pictures just to show some general field work. It is a lot of fun, I have to say that. So if you're not into that though, you know, in the beginning I said, you know, question what you're interested in and what environment you are comfortable working in. If you're not into being outside, that's okay. You can still make a difference, especially these days. Engineering and technology, oh my gosh, you know, we are dealing with environmental remediation, energy efficiency, waste management. You know, we are seeing big needs with urban areas and how to minimize their impact on the water quality, the soil quality, the air quality. And we need engineers to do that, right? Engineers are the problem solvers. And what's funny was, just to show you how times have changed, now we've got STEM programs. Like now we know science, technology, engineering, and math all go together. I remember when I was back doing environmental consulting, and this was like, I'm gonna age myself, this was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And in our consulting firm, we had the biologists, the scientists. That was the wing of the building I was in. And then we had the engineering group, civil engineers. They were in a separate wing, and we really didn't cross paths. We didn't work much together. There just didn't seem to be a need. And we were in southern West Virginia, where the coal industry is big. So we were doing environmental impacts on deep mines and surface mines, mountaintop removal, and the wetland areas and gas pipelines. And the engineers were working with the coal companies. And it was interesting. One day, one of the civil engineers came to our wing, and we were like, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "You know," he said, I'm required in the coal technology fields to design wetlands for wetland remediation." He said, "I can make wet areas anywhere you want." And he said, "But for a wetland to work and do the remediation that it needs, it has to have the right plants. It has to have the right soils. You know, I have to establish this ecosystem." And he said, "I don't know anything about that." And he said, "You guys do." And we had this epiphany that, yeah, you know, really these two groups really needed to work together. So we started having combined meetings where we would plan out the wetland sites, plan out the plants. You know, he would do the plans for the engineering aspect of it, the physical building the wetland, and then we would help and give advice on how to establish that. So engineering and natural resources really do go hand in hand. And I just have some pictures here, especially, you know, now that I was talking about industry and mining, we're dealing now with what I consider kind of a recycling crisis, right? A waste management. What do we do with all that waste? And, you know, where does our plastic recycling go? We're seeing we have a real problem with that. So, you know, we need the engineers and the problem solvers to figure out how can we repurpose all of these materials. And if we have degraded areas, like I have pictures on the left, we need wetland restoration projects. That requires engineers. Or mining site reclamation, that requires engineers and biologists. So we have a lot going on with how to fix problems we've made in the past and how to make our current needs a little more efficient and sustainable. And of course, the big push now with electric vehicles and solar and wind, I mean, just the possibilities are endless. You don't have to be a fisheries biologist or a wildlife biologist to make a difference. You can be the technology guru to solve these problems. I've got a picture on the upper right of a waste management facility. That's huge. How do you take in the waste from an urban area and recycle it, clean it, make it clean enough to recycle the water and properly dispose of the wastes? You know, a lot of these waste management areas now, if they go through the cleaning process enough, the organic material that's left from that solid waste can be applied to agricultural fields as fertilizer, which is what our waste treatment plant here in Roanoke has. Solid waste. It it hasn't reached the level, I don't think, to apply to agricultural fields, but it's safe to be applied to grazing fields and other pasture lands. So there's a lot of ways we can still have our current level of development or technology, but do it in a sustainable, safe, and healthy way. There's also, we're seeing, as Sarah kind of pointed out, we've got the environment, urban health fields interface, right? With more people and more development, we have more people interfacing with wildlife, and we're seeing spreads of zoonotic diseases like Lyme disease as people come in contact with ticks and different tick-borne pathogens, and maybe in developing countries where clean water is an issue and we have waterborne pathogens there. If you're interested in the healthcare field, you can steer yourself towards dealing with these urban, these interfaces of human development and these zoonotic pathogens, or even just providing clean water for an area. Also horticulture, we're seeing that the horticulture field has a lot of plants that have turned out to be invasive species. We have a new line of horticulture called environmental horticulture. How can we have these planned, beautiful landscaped areas that have native plants for the pollinators, or native plants that our birds and pollinators and our native soils work better with, soil microbes? Urban agriculture. I mean, there's so much we can do now. And I've got here like land use planning. It didn't used to be, 30 years ago, a land use planner was like, what can we build here and there? Which part's going to be urban, which is suburban? But now we're having to be smarter about these urban areas. We have areas that we've designated as food deserts, people living in inner city areas that don't have close proximity to a grocery store with fresh fruits and vegetables, or it's too expensive to ship it in. So now we have really creative people rethinking rooftop spaces or walls, these urban spaces that used to be not, thought of as waste areas, maybe, we're rethinking rooftops, like I said, different ways we can provide food to urban areas, and it's locally grown. It doesn't, someone can be an urban farmer and not have to own 500 acres out in the country. They can make a big difference feeding the people locally in a city. We also know now that even if you're not growing food, that urban areas need green space. We know that people are healthier, they're happier, they live longer, and they're safer in their neighborhoods when they have trees and green space. We need that for good mental health. So this has become a new big part of land use planning and urban planning. So if your interests are in urban areas, this is kind of like the new Wild West that's opened up. There's so much possibility with new technology to how to make a big difference in an urban environment. If you're interested in education, if you really like kids and you like teaching people, like I do, I've kind of changed career paths. You want to share the information and share the fun. And it's important that we start that at an early age, right? We need to and of course, kids naturally love being outside anyway. So let's piggyback on that and encourage it and just keep it going all through the middle school and high school years. And then you've got a better educated community for when they become adults. And there's a totally different aspect. If you're big into policy and regulation, which I have to say I'm not, but anyway, but I'm glad there are people that are into this. If you want to make a difference in the laws that are passed, or even just your local ordinances or regulations, you can go the pathway of environmental law and policy, or politics, if you want to go that direction. So there's all different avenues you can go in. So I realize I'm going to go kind of quickly. I think that's it for the career path. So now it's like, okay, you decide what you want to do. How do you get there? So for the colleges, now I'm going to go real quickly. And this is where all my hyperlinks begin. This is where it's going to be hard. You know, you're going to have to do a lot of research for how you want to do your career path. All right. So if you want to start locally, obviously I'm going to plug Virginia Western, right? Because that's where I am. And I think we've got a really great group of people here, great programs. At Virginia Western, we offer the Associates of Science, which has it has many different subsets. But as far as applying to this talk today, we've got science, we have integrated environmental studies, and we have agriculture. We have transfer agreements with all of those to the surrounding local schools. Virginia Tech, Ferrum, Radford. With the science program, we have big transfer agreements with all the four-year public schools in Virginia. If you're into the engineering route, we have the AS of Engineering and Mechatronics. Those guys are doing really neat things. They're building I just left my dendrology class, and while I was teaching about trees across the hall, there were robots moving everywhere. And that is transferable to Virginia Tech. So if you're interested, so I've got hyperlinks to all of these majors that you can investigate on your own. And probably the source of most confusion is the transfer agreements, because we have a lot. So I have put a hyperlink here to all of our transfer agreements. So when you start planning out what you want to do, and you can take advantage of CCAP, 2 or 3 free years at Virginia Western, and then you can figure out how you want to transfer those credits onto a 4-year school. If you want to look at in-state options, all right, within natural resources, Virginia, okay, so I went there, so I know I'm biased, but Virginia Tech is amazing. That's been ranked, its College of Natural Resources has been ranked #1 for several years now. It's just a wonderful program. I've got a link to that college's website. You can check out all of those majors. Just you go down that rabbit hole, just start clicking and clicking on all of these degrees. Same with the College of Engineering. Virginia Tech's engineering program is amazing. Something that's interesting. All right, so I mentioned on the last one, our transfer agreements. Virginia Tech has what we call roadmaps that tie in from the VCCS, so from the community college system to Tech. If you click on, and I'm going to go ahead and open this, the roadmaps tell you how you can which courses from the community college system transfer to Virginia Tech for different majors. So scroll down to the bottom and just choose whichever college you're interested in, and then choose a major, and it'll show you the roadmap of what courses you need to take to transfer. It's big, it's going to take you a while, and I don't have time to do that now. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint, but I wanted to share that with you. We have other amazing 4-year schools. Virginia is just, you can't go wrong living in Virginia. We have so many wonderful 4-year colleges, and we have transfer agreements to most of them. Within natural resources, I've covered Virginia Tech. There's also UVA. I have links to their college, their engineering and environmental sciences programs. Ferrum College, tiny little school in Rocky Mount, has a wonderful agriculture and environmental science program. James Madison, University of Mary Washington, George Mason, Christopher Newport. This isn't all of them. I just kind of brainstormed and pulled out the ones that I could find really strong programs with. So please don't think that I'm only plugging these. We have so many other colleges in the state that are wonderful, and I just had a limited amount of time. But these are all direct hyperlinks to their undergraduate programs. All right, so many pathways, and the options are overwhelming. All right, this is what you need to do. Do your research. It's going to take a long time. Just click on all those links and choose what fits your interests and goals. What is affordable, right? Tuition is expensive, so that's definitely a consideration. What feels right? I know that's a little subjective, but I think Sarah mentioned this in her previous talk. Don't let people railroad you saying, oh, you know what, you should do this. You do what feels right for you, especially as you do more research and look into these careers and how to match up the majors. So do what works for you. And also remember and this was something I had to learn personally. I had this idea that I had to know my career path when I was 18, and that career path had to stay the same until I was 65. And I learned that life doesn't work that way. So also remember that it is okay to change your mind. It's okay to make some little bends in the career path. So as you make decisions, as you learn more and make decisions, it's okay to make these little directional changes along the way. Give yourself that freedom. And then I'm just going to end here, and whatever you choose, don't forget to have fun. You know, do what you want in life, do what feels right. I found this, I've got a hyperlink in this picture. I was looking up in my making this, you know, pictures and websites for natural resources. And apparently the people at US Fish and Wildlife Service in Alaska have a lot of fun. So I can't click on the link now because for some reason our school Wi-Fi is blocking it. Anyone else not at school can get to this, but they have created a website called So You Want to Be a Fisheries Biologist. And anyway, that's interesting too. So that's my talk. I don't know if I went over the time limit, but do you all have any questions?
Thank you so much, Heather. This was a really fantastic conclusion to our Earth Summit today. You really had a nice, comprehensive closing on job opportunities, career paths, and such. It really fell in nicely with the other talks today. Even if we don't have time for a question, I do think that one of them especially is fairly important. And it says pretty much most of what you've looked at today or talked about today were paths for kind of science-based career paths. Do you know of any that might be Bachelor of Arts or Masters of Arts that might also have a sustainable pathway?
Yeah, I think the policy end of things, which I discovered quickly was my weak point. If you're into you know, political science, the policy end of things, that is a huge part of it. It just working with people, you know, a lot of this, and I learned this, I had a minor in my undergrad, my undergraduate degree was in forest resources, but I kind of minored in wildland recreation management. And it's kind of surprised me. It ended up being all policy and sociology and psychology and how to work with people, because so much of this is communication. It's not all science. You can know all the science in the world and be a math whiz, but if you can't communicate with people and get people on board to work together, then not a lot is going to happen. So there is a place for all of this, and especially, and the educators also. You don't have to be technically inclined to work, you know, communicate these issues with the general public. I think there are a lot of different pathways to go into.
That's a really good point. The communication aspect is key to so much of this being successful, to really put sustainability on the roadmap, so to speak. I think that's a very good point.
In fact, I'd like to raise a point. When I was at Virginia Tech, so these colleges have panels of people in industry that give feedback on what they feel the college needs to improve on their program. And apparently, when I got there, the industry had said that our forestry and wildlife graduates were not great at communicating, and we weren't very good writers or public speakers. So when I was there, all of our research papers we wrote, we had to submit 2 copies, one for our professor and one went to the English department, and then to be graded for grammar and writing. And we were like, what? Why do I need to be a good writer? And why do I need to take public speaking? And they were right. When I got in the field, I did not realize as a forester how many times I would have to talk in public and communicate with people on all different education levels.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Are there any other questions? I think, and just as a matter of point, I know you sent me a PDF of your talk with all the links, and I will get that out to the teachers and all of the registrants so that everyone has a copy of that and their students can have a copy and look at it. I think those are really important because students, especially juniors and seniors, get very overwhelmed by information. So to have those links is a pretty important tool for them, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And I watched my daughter and son go through this because I've got 2 college age kids, and I was like, what do you want to major in? And they just spent just clicking links and just reading and looking up stuff. It takes time. It takes effort.
Yeah, it really does. So hopefully you've helped streamline some of that for some of the students. That would be great. Yeah. Let's see, Sarah Wilford said, thank you, Heather. She really enjoyed your talk. And I think that sums it up for all the speakers today. The wealth of knowledge that we've been able to gain today has been phenomenal, and I can't thank our speakers enough. It's been a wonderful few hours. I will say what everyone else has said today. I wish it could have been in person. Hopefully next time it will be, and we can have some workshops and such, and really get the students to interact well with the presenters. Again, I want to thank all the speakers. They had really good points. Hopefully everyone learned a little bit something about recycling industry and sustainability in general, what you can do in your daily lives as students to recycle, and how to recycle, and how to do internships in these fields. There's been a lot of good information presented on how to get involved in the fields, how to not only volunteer, but also to internship. And I want to point out what Heather said too. Our possibilities are endless, and I think all the speakers today have really shown that no matter what your interest is, no matter whether you're a science person or policy person or a people person, there is room for you in a career path in sustainability. And if you look at the links for all the companies that presented today and for Clean Valley Council, we can help you with those pathways, and we can help you attain your goals and dreams of being in a sustainable career path. So if there are no more questions, I would like to end our Earth Summit for November 2021. Courtney, if you have any last minute comments, you're welcome to join in. I do have a few thank yous, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody's participating.
Yeah, I just want to say for each of you, I know it's sometimes a challenge to have your classes join us for the Earth Summit. Hopefully the virtual format was beneficial today. I just want to second the big thanks and the wonderful variety as we embarked upon the recycling piece, the focus of our talk, but also to look at that broader scope for you all, looking at career paths. And Clean Valley Council continues to want to be a resource for you all. And teachers, we love your feedback, so give it to us, let us know, and help us build next year's Earth Summit. And thank you all.
And thank you very much, everyone. And we'll have the recording of the Earth Summit on our website soon, so you can look for it and share it. Thank you, and remember to email us with any questions or additional information. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate all of you joining us.